Dan Rush from BSU is going to teach us something today, and I can't wait to learn. Thank you so much for being here, Dan Rush. And you saw the
I did. So thank you, Stacy, so much for inviting me. If you'll bear with me, I'm going to do a second technology thing for our online folks and see if I can't share our current screen so that you'll have a chance of being able to read some of the text that's on there. So, entire screen. Yes, please.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I didn't hear who said that, but now you have a chance to read what we're doing. I've got the
Thank you.
no. And David, you had a fantastic observation just a second ago that the city has all this detail that they've technically provided, but they've given it to us in a format that makes it really hard to get the information out of it. I would suggest to you that the city is probably not the only group or organization you've worked with that has this particular symptom, where the data's there, you know it's available, but it's in a format that's just really hard to work with. What I hope to do tonight is show you what's possible with some widely available tools to get around problems like that probably shouldn't exist if everybody was like putting on their thinking cap and trying to do the most good for the most people, but sometimes seems to happen just because people are really just trying to get through their day, get their job done, and maybe make sure they can check the box.
Dan, you've got you want to stand right in front of that computer for us if you don't know. You've got a little box there.
I'm honored. Disappeared.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So my name's Dan Rush. I am an associate professor of information technology management at Boise State. Obligatory commercial. If you've got a high school senior or an incoming college student or even a freshman or sophomore that's not sure what they want to do, ask them to take a look at the College of Business. We have some of the most relevant programs on the campus right now, and we're one of two colleges that's essentially growing along with health sciences. So we would love to get them hooked up with any of our majors. And if they have any sort of technological bent, I'd love to have them in IT management. And if they don't, I'd love to show them how AI and data visualization can make them look like they're tech savvy without actually having to know much. So here's my agenda for the day. A little bit about myself, because I think everybody deserves to know where I'm coming from, just so you can, run everything I say through that particular worldview. Then I want to talk a little bit about behind the scenes of how these new large language models, LLMs, work, which are kind of what most people mean when they say AI these days. And then don't worry, it's not going to be super technical. It's going to be like at the level of like, explain it to me like I'm 5, hopefully. Feel free to interrupt and ask questions if you want to. And then most of my time I'd like to spend actually doing demonstrations to show you what this looks like. Now, for the folks in the room, there's a couple things you might be able to do on your phone, but it's more like, hey, just watch and see and ask, hey, what did you do there? How can we go back? What if we did it like this? And the specific things I wanted to show you, there's a product from Google called Notebook LM. This is how you're going to hold the city to account to what did they do this year versus last year, or even the year before that. Because if you have the 300-page budget document from each of those years, Notebook LM will search through them and find the answers for you. ChatGPT, you're probably familiar with that one. It's kind of the big 800-pound gorilla that kicked off this current wave of AI fun. But I use it a little differently. I'm going to avoid the fun stuff and try and make it practical. Then we'll create a data visualization using Gemini, but really could use any AI that's out there. And then we're going to do a problem if you're thinking. So be thinking about what's something that I have to do in my job or with my investment properties or just in my life that has nothing to do with any of this, but it annoys the heck out of me. And I think there's got to be an easier way. Like if there's something that has to deal with manipulating or transforming information or documents, there's a good chance AI can help with it. And I'd love to try and fail spectacularly in front of a live crowd. No IT demonstration's good without a big fail screen. And then if we have time, we'll talk about how the new coding language of choice is English. So as long as you can speak our English language, you can make applications now. You don't have to have programming languages. Yes, sir.
Question, maybe a little bit of digression, but you know how Google has been putting AI results on top?
Yes.
It's gonna be trusted.
No. Ish. So, I don't trust anything I can't peel back the layers and see where it came from. Google is getting better with this. If you want to use AI for search, though, I have a different recommendation. It's called Perplexity. I can show you where it is. And the reason I don't like it is because they've got little footnotes all throughout the answer, so you can hover over and see exactly where it came from. What's interesting to me is Google's Notebook LM does the exact same thing. And that's why I like it. And I would say if you take nothing else away from tonight, it's know that Google Notebook LM exists. It's free. And if you have documents that you can put into PDF form, it's fantastic at helping you find out what you want to know from those documents without necessarily having to search them or find the table of contents or look up the index. You can just put it in a chat bot and ask the question you want to ask.
Part of their learning model.
Not necessarily. So with Notebook LM in particular, so we actually have an AI brown bag that the College of Business hosts on campus every 2 weeks during the school year. Google's education reps came to campus to talk about their AI offerings because they knew that our CIOs and CISOs and other folks also attended this because we were kind of the leader in it. And one thing we learned from that interaction was they can't train on the interactions because each model is so specific to the person and the documents they uploaded that it actually makes their model worse and not better. So by default, Google's Notebook LM does not train on anything that you put into it. Great question, though. The privacy thing, I love that it's out there. Also, you don't have a name tag. So what's your name?
Alex.
Alex, thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot of that. And again, please interrupt and ask questions if you have. Yes, sir.
Good.
Jason, is it, am I reading? John, sorry.
I've been using Adobe Acrobat.
Uh-huh.
Acrobat for what you're talking about the Notebook LM.
Yeah.
Very significant difference.
So I've played around with Adobe a little bit, not a lot. In my use case, though, it appears as a sidebar when I open a single PDF. Notebook LM, as we'll see, actually helps you compare and contrast and pick from a whole bunch of different PDFs all at once, not just a single one. Plus other sources like web pages, text files, and it has another format. We can look it up when you're doing it there. So I don't know if this holds true strictly, but largely it's being able to do more than just one source when you interact. But you're right. Adobe's selling this too. And in fact, every single tech product out there has got some AI spin on it right now. So that'll be part of it. So about me, born in Twin Falls to parents. My mom grew up on Lake Ponderay. My dad grew up in Moscow. They met at the University of Idaho. I'm a third generation Vandal that ended up teaching at BSU. So go figure. My wife graduated from ISU, so I call us an ecumenical family. But I was raised in Boise for the majority of my life, and I now work at that building right there, which is the business building. We used to have a beautiful view of the foothills, but then the artist said, we want an art building with a beautiful view of the foothills. Never mind the building that we're blocking. Business folks don't need beauty anyways. I don't know that they said that, but that's the vibe I get. Also, their exhaust system points directly at our building. So when I walk out that door, I get a blast of hot air that's coming off their AC. So go figure. I mean, there's nothing symbolic about art, right? How did I get to Boise State? As I mentioned, Okay, first tech fail. I somehow went all the way to the end of the presentation with one click. Go back. There we go. So undergraduate education at the University of Idaho, third generation Vandal. My grandparents actually lived in Moscow when I was going there. So I'd go out for a home cooked meal every Sunday, maybe take a nap on their couch in the quiet serenity of the farm before going back into town. But it was a real special time. When they passed, family sold the farm. And when I was like, hey, what would it take to buy 140 acres on Moscow Mountain? Yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to retire to a farm anytime soon. So I thought I'd check out my mom's parents' place on Lake Pend Oreille that, he built with his own two hands while he was the manager of the local Senex station, providing building materials and stuff for the local farmers. Yeah, it turns out I can't afford that place either. So what you all do is important and really impacts people's lives, and I love that. My connection to real estate professionally, I spent 4 or plus years in IT consulting, and then got hired back in Boise because I was based in Seattle for consulting, came back to Boise. Was hired by a commercial real estate firm in their IT department because they were creating custom solutions for investors who had multiple properties to manage, were generally part of a tenant in common arrangement, and that were really interested in 1031 exchanges. And just managing all those moving pieces across multiple properties required a lot of custom software that just didn't exist. So they had an IT department. Like, hey, I've just done IT consulting for 4 years. I know how to speak between developers and pretty much any business person. That was a great gig. Well, it lasted, which was 10 months. And then the CEO ended up in jail because they were doing some stuff that they maybe shouldn't have. I think many of the investors got most of their money back, but not all of them. So interesting life lesson. I'm not going to say. But if you want to search Boise property management, property management is not the right word. Commercial property investment firm jail. Like you might find it.
Would the acronym be does business somewhat illegally?
Oh yeah, that sounds real familiar. Yeah. Technically, I was employed by a subsidiary. Fortunately, Blue Cross of Idaho scooped me up and I got to work in health insurance for a few years, which actually was most of my IT consulting gig. So I have been real estate adjacent, but I know just a fraction what any of you know. So apologies in advance. Many of the examples will not be realistic. They're largely generated by AI and you can poke holes in them. So don't consider them real numbers. Think about if I gave this tool my real number, what could this tool do for me? That's the mindset I want you to have as we go forward. Okay, so how did I get from a useful contributor to society to a college professor? I went to the University of Michigan for my PhD once my wife's grad school was over. Got hired for my first gig at the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, Cowtown, big feedlots, where a lot of our beef in the West comes from. Also smells like money, which if you know Eastern Idaho, smells a lot like dairies. And then I joined Boise State in the fall of 2017. Oh, there's the pictures. The animation wasn't great. So that's me and where I came from and kind of how little I know about this subject, but I appreciate you listening to me anyways. So let's get on to the tech part. The big picture here is we want to take a very simple look at how these large language models work and generate their seemingly intelligent responses. And I say seemingly because I firmly believe that only people have intelligence. And computers just take inputs, do processing, and give us outputs. And the outputs are what we make of them, but it doesn't make the computer any smarter. It just makes it really fast at doing processing. All right, so two key concepts we are going to talk about are tokens, and then how those tokens get turned into outputs via the AI toolbox. So, hey, second fail. I misspelled the word does. It's DOES. I do know how to spell. Apologies to my second grade teacher. But how does an LLM AI work? Basically, all these are that little text prediction that you might have seen on your phone saying, what's the next word going to be? Did you mean to say this word or that word? And then sometimes you'll type the word you wanted and it'll correct it to a different one because it thinks it predicts better than you do. Yeah, that's what these do. That's all they do. But they have, instead of just the line that you're typing, a much larger context for what the work is that they're producing. And I'll talk a lot about this with words, and you give text examples, but this applies just the same for images, because images to a computer are just the same thing words are, a bunch of zeros and ones in a block that follow each other in a sequence. And so you can recreate a Rembrandt looking painting by knowing how Rembrandt's shading from one color to another might look on a palette. And to an LLM is just all the zeros and ones, which ones end up next to each other. So it can create a Rembrandt looking photo or painting just by predicting what comes next. So in the text version, the best time to invest in real estate was,
Yesterday.
it might say yesterday, because 77% of the time when people have said that saying in this formal or informal context, that was the answer. So it'll predict that as, here's what the next word should be. But the interesting thing part of these is, instead of like on your phone where you had to type that part, if you tell it, hey, I want to talk about investing in real estate, it'll come with that first part of the sentence on its own and then complete it there. To winterize a sprinkler system, you first need to water, right? So it will not predict the whole phrase. It'll predict bit by bit what that phrase needs to come. That's not why the text appears slowly on the screen. That's entirely an animation just to make you feel like it's working hard. But it is predicting chunk by chunk as they go along. What's interesting about this, though, is that prediction is going to be based on the data that it took in its initial training, and then the context that this conversation is occurring in, which we call the transformation. So the pre-training and the transformation will predict what gets spit out after each word in the sentence. And the system has no idea whether it's true or not. It just knows that it sounds right. Anybody ever hear the word truthy? Truthy. It's coined by some late night talk show host like a decade ago, when politics was getting a little spicy and people were saying things and starting to fact check each other. Well, it's like, well, it sounds truthy, so it's probably right. Imagine, like, sounds like it could be plausible, but without any sort of fact checking. That's what AI essentially does. And what sounds right to it is based on what was in that initial pre-training set and then what is in this context for the conversation and things it's having. So if you ask, can I trust it? That's why I say no. But the advancements are happening where the systems are able to selectively pay attention to just parts of that corpus of initial training data or parts of the context to more precisely hone in on what you're actually asking about, and then tying that together with sourcing where they're getting the answer from. Those three things together actually make it so the answers could actually very well be exactly what you need to know, well-sourced current information. But you don't know that necessarily unless you can double check it yourself. So I trust them as far as I can throw them. And since they're, multi-thousand-pound machines running in parallel, sucking up all the energy from Pittsburgh, like, I can't throw them very far. But as long as they're useful, I'll keep using them. All right, enough editorializing. Let's talk about what a GPT is. So I mentioned this. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. The generative part is it creates new things, pictures, text, that prediction engine that we talked about. The pre-trained is it's already learned from a vast data set, which essentially consists of everything these companies that created them could get their hands on. Like, in their minds, they've downloaded all of the internet, all of the books that have ever been digitized, plus everything else they could get, and they want more. A lot of the earlier advances were like, getting even bigger and bigger data sets for the pre-training, and then they ran out of information. And some of the sites started turning off access, and Reddit started charging for access to real human created conversations. So now the advancements are all that turning on or off, which parts of this we should pay attention to and which part of the context. The transformer, this is the hardest thing for me to understand and thus explain, but it essentially has to do with setting the context for what this particular conversation is going to be about. You're going to transform all of that text that you've got good tagging and training on into something relevant to the interaction you're having right then. Whether that interaction is creating a visual or generating text or now creating movies and animated shorts. I'm not showing you how to do that either. I'm no graphic designer. All right, and what's the unit that this training and transformation is done on? All of these systems care about something called tokens. So it doesn't actually see words, it doesn't see pixels, it sees tokens. And a token can consist of a pixel in a picture or part of a word. And a lot of times it could be the whole word. So like real estate investing is 4 tokens, and the tokens are real estate, invest, and ing. So if any of you know actual grammar, you could diagram the sentence, rip apart the part of the words and see some corollaries there. Yeah, the computer actually was never trained in Latin. It can't tell you any of that, but it does know that I can chunk things up in these chunk sizes. So a long word ends up getting into like 2, 3, 4, 5 tokens. Why do you need to care about that? 2 reasons. One, the model is going to be limited to the number of tokens that it can have in its context window. That is, its memory is only so big, and it can only think about so many things at one point in time. And that's everything that you've asked it, your prompt, plus all of its response, plus any materials that you've uploaded or it's searched on the web to try and put into that answer. The free models have a really small token context window because memory and processing is expensive and the companies don't want to give that away for free. The paid models have much bigger context windows and it can handle orders of magnitude more tokens. So
What kind of count is that?
it changes every 2 months. So I'm not even going to attempt. I'm going to say how many tokens? Free chat. See if we get a recent answer. Oh, look, Gemini is going to try and answer to us. So the 3.5 model had a maximum of 4,096 tokens in an interaction, including both input and output. It's tiny.
I read into it.
Yeah. The paid versions, though, are in the millions. Yeah. Okay, so that's the limit. You get less when you pay for it, but also when you're using the AI via an API, an application programming interface. That is where the app on your phone or your computer is talking to the AI to do some specialized task. They're either going to pay by the call or pay by the token. It depends on which plan the app developer signed up for. Why do you care about that? Because most of our AI use in the future is not going to be with ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok. It's going to be with a program that does the thing that I need it to do, whether it's keep track of all my properties or help me write an essay or make me a better artist. But whatever that program is, it's going to have some AI component that goes out to one of those models and makes these calls via that programming interface. And depending on which plan they paid for, your AI can be better or worse based on how much the token context they're getting. Yes.
So let's say you input something that has like 10,000 words, is it going to pull from the first however many?
It's going to pull from the last however many. It'll forget the stuff at the beginning and just do whatever it remembers since then. And so a lot of times the really weird answers you start getting out of one of these chatbots, if you go back and forth for a really long time, comes about because it forgot about where you started the conversation. Kind of like I get when I have you sleep deprived and it's 11:30 at night, somebody just won't stop talking to me at a summer camp, but they want to kind of ramble on. It's like, I don't know how we got there, but this is like, you get all philosophical.
I ran into that with ChatGPT. Had a cooldown period, like 24 hours.
Oh gosh.
And then I was able to continue.
That's smarter than just turning into a hallucinatory engine for you.
Dan, when
Yes.
these, apps that, where we will interact most of the time,
Mhm,
whenever we're donating our content to them,
mhm.
is that also going to the large language model in the background?
It
Especially when you talk about millions of women in the state or
It depends. It's a terrible answer, but it's the actual accurate one. And I'll show you where I can look on my paid versions. There's actually an on-screen note on a couple of my versions, like this is or is not used for training. Basically, if there's a note saying it's not used for training, you have some plan or agreement or that is protecting you, or that it's not worth their time. If that's not there, you can you should probably assume that it's going to be sent back.
are there particular, ones that are not taking that?
Yeah, the ones where you're paying them.
But you said maybe they are, maybe they're not. Are there any that?
Yeah, so when you put the app developer between the generic AI and the user, they get to have their own rules. And I don't know what those rules are. You'd have to read their terms of service, which is painful and too long for any human to do. I'd recommend putting an AI and having it answer it for you.
Well, Shane, do you have any experience in that? Because Micron's very private.
Micron has their own system. They have to deal with Microsoft Copilot, where, because we have many sensitive IP issues. So we are not allowed to use ChatGPT because our searches go over to more people. So we have to work with Copilot, where we are able to ask whatever questions we want about whatever technical subject it is. Doesn't give that.
So excellent clarification. I am giving this presentation from the idea of an individual user. Corporations and businesses have a whole different threat landscape and set of concerns, which my organization, Boise State, also has, which means I am crippled and can't use most of the stuff that I want on campus. So I have to either pay for it on my own or break the rules. I'm not that type of person too often. But what's interesting about this, though, is Copilot is Microsoft's branding for their suite of AI tools, which is Copilot for Excel, and Copilot for Word, and Copilot for Power BI, and Copilot for PowerPoint. They're different engines. However, when you're doing generative AI, almost all of them call out to open AI's ChatGPT, but it's a protected instance, and Microsoft, via their Azure cloud platform, has set it up so they can sell secure access to this. And oh, by the way, the reason they have a special deal with OpenAI to have all the secure provisioning is because they're like a 50% investor in the company. They are one of the big backers of OpenAI. So they use their engine rebranded as Copilot, but with all the corporate protections that Microsoft's so good at selling for this past number of decades. Yes,
Okay,
Shannon.
another question about this kind of max tokens. Let's say we're putting in into the free ChatGPT, the document.
Mhm.
And we're having a conversation, trying to pull information from that. And it's a really long conversation, so eventually we run out of whatever those tokens are. Is it per chat or is it per account? Is it per? How is that separated? So if you do
Tokens are per
max that out over.
tokens are going to be per chat.
Okay.
I just had a thought, so I'm doing this live. Google's AI Studio, aistudio.google.com, actually has a drop down here for developers to try different models of their tools. You can even do others beyond theirs. But one thing about that is it'll tell you how many tokens left you have left in the chat. So you'll see Gemini 2.5 Pro starts at 1,048,576 tokens. Whereas, ChatGPT 3.5, the initial free one had like 4,000 something. So this is much, much bigger. This is enough to put like an entire Encyclopedia Britannica, plus ask it a bunch of questions about it.
Would you recommend this over ChatGPT
I'd recommend
or general search?
one of two things. One, if you're using it to do a job, find out what may be the best industry specific tool is for that job and consider that, and then compare it against one of the paid ones. So Google's Gemini Pro or Advanced, ChatGPT's paid version, not the pro version. That's like $200 a month. Only super users need that. But the $20 a month could do a lot for you and has a similarly large token count. By the way, when I talk about ChatGPT 3.5, that's the one that came out in like November of 2022. So it's pretty old out there. Let's get back here. So let's talk about along these same lines, what tool to pick. You've got essentially three basic choices. The one is the chatbot interface, where you can have a direct conversation with the mainstream LLM. It'll be ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok from X, or one of the others. And you can do it things like write a 3-bedroom house listing for a home in the Boise North End with a large fenced backyard. And it will, from its context and knowledge of all the internet that it's scraped, figure out what a house listing looks like and start throwing together a nice sounding description for you. Now, the more details you give it, maybe a bullet list of actual features, the more accurate that will be. But it'll come up with something based on a generic understanding of what a North End house in Boise might look like, which, as you know, could be highly variable because it totally depends. Is it new? Is it old? Is it has it been renovated? Hasn't it? Is it a multiplex? Is it not? One thing we haven't talked about, but will become very common, is this idea of AI agents. That is an AI that can take multi-step actions and work towards a goal. So let's say, anybody ever use Google Flights and click, oh, watch this flight for me and tell me if the price goes down? That's an agent. You'll have those for all sorts of things now because AIs allow actions on data that isn't as rigorously formatted as flight data is, which, if you didn't know, is all in one giant reservation system that travel agents can access and is fairly standardized. Well, most data isn't, but AI is able to deal with non-standardized data and still achieve almost standardized results. So you can get your alerts about properties that, I don't know, just are about to get annexed because of last night's city council meeting or something that might not be easy to do before. I don't know if anybody has that product. If not, you should totally make it and then give me a commission. For instance, hey, tell me if certain retail trends change, things that I care about. And then the other one was the one we were talking about, third-party software tools. And that's software for a very specific reason that uses AI to enhance that software's offerings. Do I have a good list of those for real estate? No, I do not. But I have Jim and I working over on it here on the side, so we'll see if it comes up with anything by the end of the meeting. Now the fun part, the demonstrations. I want to actually get hands-on and do stuff live to show you what this might look like. So I'm going to see if I can make this work.
Well, the AI agents probably be from a third party app. So they just built an API.
Yeah. Although, since English is the new programming language, if you were especially determined, you could probably sit down and create a simple one yourself using an AI. The one thing I think everybody in this room should be able to do and will help you with the city and hold them to account is to take a look at this notebook LM. So the demonstration that I brainstormed with Stacy over a month ago was like, hey, what if we had a couple leases and we wanted to compare and contrast them? Or what if we had more than two? What if we had 12 or 20? Notebook LM is able to do that type of job for us. So the URL is notebooklm.google. Notice there's no .org. It's just a kind of funny sounding one. I don't ever remember that. I just go to my favorite search engine and type Google Notebook LM, and it pops up as one of the first two results. So I'm going to do that right now in this nice little incognito window. There it is. try it out. And you'll notice I've used this a fair bit. Each one of these blocks is a notebook that I've created. I also recommend this to my students because you can put your own professor's slides, lecture transcripts if they provide them, copy sections of the textbook, plus your own notes all into a notebook and then ask it questions or say, hey, generate me a study guide based off of this.
Right.
Just at
Did
the
you
click
say
of a
what's that
button.
would be on the test?
Yeah, exactly. So it starts with adding your own sources. Ignore this button on the top right. Teachers hate this. Discover sources didn't used to be there. What I loved about this was that they had to bring something to the table. So if you upload your own sources, you can investigate them. I promised 2 leases, and I also gave Stacy a task and didn't tell her how important it was. So all of the files and demonstrations I'm going to do are available to you to download. And if you're at home, you can download them and follow them along right now on my website. What's my website? It's my name, danrush.com or .org or .net. I got them all. And I have a nice little jump to section down here, AVID Investment Club AI demo. Where did this crazy idea came from? Well, I wanted you to be able to have the data files, but also for fun, I just took my slide presentation outline and to ask Gemini, hey, could you turn this into a web page for me? So it did. And this is the web page. It's an embed down here. AI tools for the modern real estate investor. Welcome, AVID investors. Here's what I understand about AVID, why you're here, what you're trying to do. Here's what I know about your club. By the way, all I gave it about AVID was the website text from one page off of your website, plus my slide outline. So that's what it got out of it. Here's the AI fundamentals. If you wanted to remember, hey, what was that he said about LLM? You've got tabs for each of the things we talked about. Here's your stuff on tokens. The toolbox, the chatbot, AI agents, third-party tools, it's all there. And then our live demonstrations. Here I've got your prompts, and we'll start with compare leases, then we'll create a listing, we'll visualize some data, and then you get a choice. And then QA contact. Hey, third Wednesday of the month, 6:15, contact StacyA McBain. And then because it's not a very good website, it says it all again a second time. I didn't modify this at all. I just copied and pasted it. But not bad for essentially zero investment other than pasting in my notes and giving it one page from your business. Anyways, the important part about this page is if you want to follow along, you go to this data files page. And let's see, I'm going to come down and get these two, not the property management. I want these 2 commercial lease agreements. So I'm going to download this sample lease, which is just a template. You might have seen them around. I am not a lawyer. I have no training on this. You should not take any advice from me or the LLM as something that's worthwhile to do. What I'm trying to show you though is you can put in a document you know nothing about and learn about it by interacting with the AI. So I downloaded one blank lease agreement, and then here's a second lease agreement. This one's not blank because I went out to a Rocket Lawyer, I believe owned by Intuit. Don't quote me on that, and made up a fictional company with an AVID investor as the landlord, with a property at 9876 Maplewood Lane in Boise, Idaho, with a lease term from August 1st of this year to July 31st of next year, and a whole bunch of terms and conditions. So I just filled out their template using made up data, some of which I imagined, but most of which an AI imagined for me. So that's where that came from. So I'm going to give it these 2 sources that I just downloaded. Notebook LM. And stop me if I'm about to disclose some confidential proprietary information from your laptop. I did not remember to ask for permission ahead of time to get this. There's our 2 sample leases, and you'll see it starts examining the files. You can take PDFs as well as text files, markdown files. You can put in audio, like a recording of a meeting or a city council interaction, or maybe a news report that was going on. Just hit the record while the news station's playing on your phone and then upload it here. Anything that you store in your Google Drive or is on a website or on YouTube, you can put in here as well as a source. After it analyzes sources, it gives you a brief summary here in the middle. These sources are commercial lease agreements that outline the terms and conditions between a landlord and tenant for the rental of a commercial property. And it puts helpful bolds on the important parts. They specify details such as effective date, parties involved, lease payments, including base rent and additional charges, description of the lease premises. Furthermore, the documents address tenant obligations regarding use, occupancy, maintenance responsibilities, insurance requirements, etc. So it kind of knows what it's talking about. Yes,
Chat box. What will be around that chat box?
it has multiple interfaces. So the chat interface is down here at the bottom. But what's different about this, instead of referencing its giant pre-trained context, it references the files you give. So I can ask it, for instance, let's see if I can type, are the differences between the clauses in these two leases? I had a property management company example on there, but I didn't have time to find a second one. And then I figured, maybe I'd leave that to an expert to talk about what should be in those agreements versus not. So you'll see it's taking my question, processing it in real time, and it'll hopefully give us an answer here in a moment. The study guide that I mentioned is down here. The briefing doc, if you have a whole bunch of things from the city, you can get a summary of all the documents by clicking on that button. Frequently asked questions, or if there's lots of dates, it will create a timeline for you. Okay, what are the examples? Sample lease 2 is worthless. It's it doesn't say worthless. It says it provides generic placeholders for the parties, effective date and lease terms, describes the lease premises generically as an office area of unspecified footage. The sample lease explicitly names AVID Investor as the landlord and the commercial tenant as the tenant. Has effective date, square footage, address, rent payments. The sample has a gross rent structure. The sample lease actually specifies that the tenant's going to have to pay $10,000 in advance. These numbers are not realistic. I made nice big round ones. Security deposit. No deposit mentioned in this one, but in this file says it's going to be $20,000 security deposit. Notice the footnotes. If I hover over the little 3 that appears there, or the 1, it'll pull up the file where that answer came from. And if I click on it instead of just hovering, will it highlight it for me? No, not on this one. On text in text versions, not the just PDFs, it'll highlight just the section where it came from. So you can check your sources. Where did this answer come from? And okay, 2 documents, maybe not as big of a deal, but when you've got 20 of them, or even like 10, knowing which document that little snippet was found in can be really useful. Overholding provisions, reentry default, insurance responsibilities, not specified, lots of specifics, not specified, lots of specifics, right? You can do that comparison on a term-by-term basis. Did it get all the terms? I don't know. I didn't open these up and go back to manually check it. So I wouldn't trust it for legal advice. But if I was looking for big red flags or like a general overview, this is a fantastic place to start. What if instead of lease documents, this was actually a written version of the market update because I wasn't able to attend the meeting? If you have a file or a newsletter and you don't have time to read it, but you do have time in your drive to listen to it, Notebook LM will generate a podcast for you to download and listen to. It has 2 hosts that do this, and you can customize it. I'm going to make mine shorter. You can tell it the things you want to focus on. I care a lot about deposits and rent. We'll ask it to generate a podcast, and it'll take a little while because this is a pretty intensive operation, but this will result in an audio file that you can download and listen to 2 synthetic people discussing the document or documents that you gave it. You can also check and uncheck which documents you want to be included in that summary for any of these things that you want to do. And the best part is You can use it right now. It's completely free, and Google makes it available without any training whatsoever, because they found that the training is junk because everybody's documents are so different. So if you leave with nothing else, it's, hey, if I have a big, long document I want to know more about or ask questions of, Notebook LM is your best bet. Adobe works too if you only have the one. If you have multiple, try Notebook LM. It could be interesting too. All right.
I like this a lot better. Somewhat features.
And that's why I'm here.
Why do they have this first, and the Gemini dot Google?
Because Google's business model is to have 1,000 flowers bloom. They'll see which ones grow up and get successful, and the ones that are not successful enough, they cut off and then reconcentrate those resources in the ones that are successful. So they had multiple AI efforts that have not yet converged. And so there's a bunch of different products out there.
As a different fellow.
I don't think it uses Gemini's engine. Yeah. I don't know for sure, but it didn't originally. Pause for folks online to ask questions if you have in the chat. Okay, we got some AI assistants. Fantastic. Y'all are using that already. So we talked about generated pre-trained transformers, GPTs. Transformation is the secret superpower of all AIs. The best thing that I've found them used for is taking something in one format and putting it to another format. Text to a podcast, slide outline to a website. It's really good at that. And so if you have something that's in an inconvenient format to you, this tool can make it more convenient to you, generally for free.
So I could plug in the AVID presentation and say, give me a handout, an outline.
Yes,
So.
absolutely.
Or a budget.
Or a podcast. Okay, so I've got a 5-minute and 6-second podcast. Does this computer have volume? Let's see if it's turned up. No, speaker's on the wrong one. I'm gonna go there. Okay, this will be a little quiet, so listen carefully.
Ever signed something, maybe involving, a lot of money and just felt completely swamped by the language, like you're wading through mud? Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
So today we're clearing some of that mud. We're doing a deep dive into commercial leases, specifically the money parts. We're talking deposits and rent. We've got some sample lease documents right here. Our mission to pull out the key bits about what you pay, what that deposit is really for, and what happens if things don't go exactly to plan. Okay.
It's wiping out a lot of jobs. A lot of white collar jobs are going away.
Hi, who's scared about their job right now? Customized education for anybody that can work with a computer? Okay. So I really appreciate this opportunity to come talk about this topic because it'll help me get up to speed. Yes.
What you've been doing is called prompt engineering. Over at Boise State, have they started developing any courses on that?
Yes, actually, my colleague Kevin Rank teaches ITM 371, a class exclusively on how to prompt and get AI to do tasks for you. I shouldn't say exclusively, that's part of it. He also has a lot of other really interesting content in there. He's also our College of Business AI fellow, and he's on some state level committees through the Department of Finance, of all things, that are looking at how technology is going to impact the state going forward and how can we use AI to make things more effective and efficient. Yes.
Can you upload a voice memo for it to generate a podcast in your voice instead of AI?
Not Google Notebook LM, but there's another tool called 11 Labs that I actually use, and because it's not an approved tool, I can't get it paid for by the university, so I pay for the $5 a month out of my own pocket, where you upload a sample of your voice and it will read whatever text you give it in that voice. And what do I use it for? To update my technology demonstrations semester to semester. I'll change out the data part, but the functionality of the software typically only changes when they do a major upgrade. But I change the data every semester so that February students can't just turn in November's assignment and get credit for it.
You can find it in.
Yeah, so before that would take me hours, like 2.5, 3 hours to update one of these. Now I can do it in about 45 minutes to an hour and 15.
So what if you have, does it have to be text, or if I run a YouTube and have to create a podcast format of that to then up?
Second sample, so that could come from a pre-existing YouTube video if you wanted, or it could be a new one. It's up to you. I gave it a really crappy pre-recorded one from one of my lecture captures, and the result was a pretty crappy sounding voice with like the
Upload a voice sample and a transcript of the video and then could create.
no, you can't create the podcast.
Land of Eldoria, where skies shimmered and forest whispered secrets to the wind.
So let's not pre-trained voices. They have some celebrity, not for Notebook LLM's podcast. However, you're not the only person to think that. I think there's some custom applications out there that do that thing for you. I just don't know what they are. Yes. Go for it.
So can you have, yell a chatbot? Can you have that make a transcript of the podcast and then just bring that over to 11 Labs and be like, hey, read this in my voice? That would be work for them.
Let's see.
We can generate that audio.
Okay, I've got the audio. I can download it. I don't see a transcript. Let's ask.
Last year. That's-
Okay, no information available about the transcript. Yeah, that's a trivial use case, Roy, and you're onto something. I'm gonna download this now and we'll make that one of our other examples when we get to the end. So hold on to that idea. Everybody else help us not forget it. We might get distracted. All right, next thing, numbers to charts. Anybody have a spreadsheet that you're like, it'd be way easier if I could just look at a picture instead of having to read all these numbers? AI just makes that almost trivial. And instead of having to know how to make the chart do exactly what you want it to in Excel, you can use English language to ask the AI to update the chart to look the way you want it to. So this is a suggested prompt, create a bar chart showing the change in average rent price over the last 6 months and add a trend line to visualize growth. Well, what would you need? You'd have to have a spreadsheet with your rent prices for all the different units for however long you want it in there. And then you could upload it to the AI and it would create the graph for you. I didn't have any numbers like that because I'm not a real estate investor. So I asked ChatGPT to create some for me. So let's look at the behind the scenes. Do we have time for that? Okay. I gave ChatGPT this prompt. Please generate some synthetic rental data for 24 apartments in a complex. My second place in Seattle was a 12 apartment complex owned by one guy up on Queen Anne Hill. I doubled it so I could have enough lines to make the chart a little more interesting. But that's what I had in mind. Please list the income from each unit, making sure that there's current information on the end date for the current lease, the current tenant's number of missed payments. These should be rare, except for 2 to 3 tenants, the rent amount and the amount that reflects a mix of old, let's say $1,200 a month plus or minus 30%, and new rates, $2,100 a month plus or minus 30%. I have no idea what Seattle's rental market is, but I figured it's probably more expensive than here. There should also be 0 to 3 months of vacancy between the leases. Give the property a fictional address and name. So what did it come up with? No, that's a different thing. So let's return. All right. There we are. Back to my website. On the data files, there is. It came up with Willow Creek Apartments located at 1234 Maplewood Lane in Boise. There's 24 apartments with rents ranging from, I didn't sort these, looks like a low of $890 a month to a high of $2,500. So pretty nice rates for Boise It really was closer to Seattle. I've got the number of missed payments for the current tenant, when their lease ends, the number of months before I was able to fill it before this current tenant. And then it even annualized it for me though, even though I didn't ask it to. It just said, you know, I think you also need this. Let me add a column for you. So if you're following along at home, you can go ahead and go to Google Sheets by clicking on that little pop-out window, and then you should have the ability to download the file. I would recommend doing all of your data, if possible, in the format CSV, Common Separated Values. The native language of AIs right now are CSV, JSON, and I forget the third one. But for data, put it in a JSON or a CSV. Oh, Python is the programming language. Those are the three computer things that AI knows really well. So if you have the chance to put it in that format, you'll give it a leg up at being more accurate. So I'm going to download this Willow Creek apartment data. It's not real. If you see it on your computer, please ignore it. And for the AI we're going to use, I'm going to use Gemini for this one. So this is Google's flagship AI that they sell to folks. I have a pro subscription, so for the good data analysis results, you generally have to have a paid version. We can't see the little pop-up on the bottom, but this is not trained here. And I'm going to click this plus button to add a file. I'm going to upload that CSV that I gave it. Taking a while, thinking about it.
Let's see if Peter's gonna explode.
Should be right here in today. There it is. Where's my Willow Creek apartment data? So I've uploaded the file, and in the first prompt I'm going to ask it is, please create a bar chart with the expected income for each unit for the upcoming year. Notice I said, please.
That is it respond nicer than you nice.
It's the soul.
I don't know that you have to, but there was a period of time about a year into it where if you said please, you got way better results than if you did. And I think it had to do with the fact that in the training set, the conversations that were really terse were a lot shorter. And so they didn't have as much predictive power. And the ones that were a little fluffier and went longer had more detail, and maybe people actually were more inclined to be responsive if you were a polite requester on some internet website forum as opposed to kind of a jerk.
Does the same go for like Alexa? Because sometimes I tell her to shut up and she's like listening.
Alexa was not powered by this style of AI before. I think it is now, so I don't know what its current operation is. This is a terrible, terrible chart. Let me show you what I got when I asked this earlier this afternoon. Apartment 16 over here is making me a lot of money in this coming year, and apartment 3 is like a third of that. So you'll see that this is, I didn't ask it to sort by the amount that it was going to make me. Like, it could have decided to sort by apartment or create a completely useless graph that I can't even read. But this I thought was fairly useful. Yes.
How do you decide LM?
Notebook LM is really good at examining documents that you give it. It's got a limit of, I think, 50 sources total, and it doesn't have the processing power or the versatility of any of the other big models. So Gemini Pro, ChatGPT paid version would be way better for data analysis than Notebook LM.
maybe this was user error, but I put a bunch of like energy use information from Idaho Power into Chat GPT and told it to create like a graph of like a customer's annual consumption. Cause I had like every hour's data.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it made a really good graph, but I couldn't like copy and paste it or anything.
I've had that problem before. You'll notice I can now download this. So I can download this file, which,
They just ask you to download the file. I just did it. It's pretty good. I had to create a logo for me.
actually, let's not log in. Let's do the free version.
Slang, so I can pull it, it's a downloadable link.
No, I have to log in to give it a file. I'm gonna try chat right now to see if it gives me something better. So please bear with me. Yeah, you can.
I'll screenshot it.
I hope it tried to do that, but then it wouldn't give me the full graph in one picture, like there was a slide there.
Oh.
At the time on this, that's what it felt like, but I couldn't get a picture of the whole thing, so I couldn't screenshot it, I couldn't figure out how to download it.
Oh.
Be friends with Alexa.
If
Should have asked it. Answer the question, how do I?
okay, this is not AI, but it's highly relevant to this conversation. Text, yeah, Snagit will allow you to snip things that you have to scroll sideways or up or down. It's a really cheap program and it gives you all sorts of annotation tools. I use it on the daily in teaching because I do software demos. So I have to screenshot something, do big red arrows, click here for the 1000th time. Yeah. Yeah, well, probably. Are they really? I didn't know that. No, I have it because it's a campus-wide license at Boise State. So I just fill out a form and I get it that afternoon. Yeah. Okay, let's try giving ChatGPT a chance and see if it does any better than Gemini did on this analysis. All right, it's gonna upload. File, which is in downloads. It'll show up eventually. There we go. Fast for the second time. This is a paid version. And if you have really amazing eyesight, and I move this bar, you can see ChatGPT can make mistakes. OpenAI does not use Boise State ChatGPT EDU workspace data to transmit. So because it's the paid version and our lawyers require it, we have a non-training agreement with them. Okay, so it gave us a preview of the CSV. It's got my prompt. You'll notice it opened up this little shaded area and it's running a Python program in the background to import the CSV into a computer program to process it and then create the visualization using a matplot library. Hey, there we go. Expected annual income by unit. And it also sorted it. Department 16 gives us the highest. Department unlabeled apartment over here gives us the lowest. That was apartment 3. All right, so it's still not perfect, but I could go back and forth with it. For instance, please highlight the bars for units where the tenants made a late payment. And I am not a real estate professional, but I was imagining a scenario. You wanted to see the performance of the units in the future and maybe make some decisions about which ones you want to renovate in the future next time it's up. And maybe you'll start knocking on doors, asking if people are interested in that and they wanted to move out. So turns out these 3 units had late payments. When I asked Gemini to do this, It found the same three. Those are apartments 2, 24, and 21. 2 had a late payment, but it's one of my higher expected revenues. So if I was going to be keeping a closer eye on things, I'd probably be looking down here because those are the ones I'd want to make a change on.
You can ask it to create market tracking charts, so you can also something by splitting data.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, hover text box or whatever. Professor curse of knowledge moment there. When the thing that pops up over your visualization, we call it a tooltip. And in my students, I teach them how to use Power BI. That's actually one of the options they can turn on or off is, does the tooltip appear and what data is in the tooltip? Looks like there is an error displaying that. Would you like me to create a downloadable interactive chart file? Didn't know you could do that, chat. I don't know that it can. Sometimes it'll offer to do something that it cannot do. Yeah. But here's my downloadable interactive HTML chart. I'm gonna save it on my desktop. Hopefully that'll be faster to load. Yeah. Save it in your desktop. Fair.
Show the world your downloads, but show them your desktop as well.
Right. So I'm gonna open this in Chrome.
It's gonna be impressive.
Okay, there we go. So again, the superpower of AI is transforming one thing to another. So just with a couple text English-based interactions, I took an CSV file and your suggestion have updated my pre-scripted prompt to create this interactive thing. And then chat on its own came up with the idea of, hey, what if I put this in a web page that you can download? And now I can stick this on a thumb drive and take it anywhere that has a browser on it. Right?
And if you don't know how you're supposed to open whatever it gives you, it's also fast. Like if you
Yep.
didn't know to like, what's the HTML file?
So I like pushing these things till they break. And then if as long as I've fulfilled my main purpose, I go back to the one before they break and I use that one. So when I was doing this with Gemini, it broke on this third step. I said, okay, great. Let's add a label to each of these bars with the number of months vacant for any units that took more than 1 month to fill. So like if there's a unit that might have been harder to rent for whatever reason, it's hard to say that qualitative information on the chart, but I have a number that'll tell me which ones were longer. When I say it broke, what did it do? It made this really hard to read by overlapping the text. So it actually added them so I can see which units took more than 1 month to fill last time. But I can't necessarily read what that number is here for apartment 14 because apartment 12 right next to it's printed right over the top of it. If we added it to our interactive tooltip, maybe I'd solve that problem. I don't really care about the number of months. It's all made up anyways. The point is, take the data, talk to it, and you can make new tools.
So we could upload using the Notebook LM, all of our year-end manager statements and ask it to summarize. Like if you had 2 properties and you had utilities and taxes, and then you had a few different names for repairs and then blah, blah, blah. Could we ask it to create a summary that we then present to our accountant with all the expenses added together?
Don't know that Notebook LM takes CSVs. So if it were in text format, you could. I wouldn't trust Notebook LM with your data. I really would.
Okay.
Pick something. I do one of the paid pro models, your ChatGPT or your Gemini, or even better yet, a specialized tool that uses AI on the back end that's meant for that type of summary. So anything from Intuit or one of the financial services would be good for that. Why do I say that? Because while the AIs have gotten better at math, they still sometimes lack the ability to accurately grab the right fields based on your text description. And they'll do it differently every single time, which makes it, if it worked once, it doesn't guarantee it's going to work the second time. If it broke once, it doesn't guarantee the second time it's going to break in the same way. It might actually do it right, or it might mess up in a totally different way. And the screenshots I was just showing from Gemini in my PowerPoint slide are kind of an example in point, because they are very different from what we got here. The same wording and the same data file on the same day.
And can you have it design the spreadsheet that does certain operational things? Is that something you do with AI?
Yes. Oh, this one looks better. I didn't scroll down far enough. You might have figured out that that's terrible. Okay, so Gemini, I'm sorry I'm ragging on you quite so much, but it's different output. You notice it's sorted in a different order than the one I got earlier. That's the way to go. Create the tool that you want to reuse. One thing that I'm having to deal with as a technology professor is computers have always been appealing to me because you put in the input, you give it the instruction set, and you get a reliable output. Input, instructions, output. If the output's wrong, you change the instructions or the input formatting until you get it to look like you're on. And every time you run it through, it'll spit out the right thing. That's how computers should work, according to my brain. LLMs are, because they're a prediction engine, they're based on statistics, which will have some curve, like a bell curve, predicting what's going to happen next, and it's going to be different every single time. That's incredibly powerful because anybody can interact with it in English. Incredibly frustrating if you're trying to deal with numbers, because you don't want those to be different. You need them to be right. Go with software tools that are built for the numbers, not your AI. But if you just need a quick visualization, creating this with the tooltips and the sorting and the coloring would have been taken at least twice as long, if not 3 times as long, for me, who's fairly decent with charts. I love
Kids
this.
using ChatGPT to do their homework.
Heck yeah. Oh my gosh.
What could be the consequence?
When am I supposed to stop talking?
You've got a few minutes.
Okay, let's have an offline discussion about that.
Okay,
As a
so-
professor, I could talk about plagiarism and how this impacts it at length. Let me just go ahead and say, though, that the danger with any tool like this is that if we think it's doing the job for us, our brain will actively work to forget how to do that job. For instance, I can still tell you the phone number of my best friend when I was 12 years old.
There's lots of studies.
I can't tell you the phone number of my 12-year-old daughter right now. Why? Because I just click on her picture and it calls her. Or I say, hey Siri, call my daughter. Don't do that. Okay. The brain, no, my brain no longer like cares about remembering 10-digit or 7-digit or 10-digit phone numbers because it doesn't have to. The technology around me is reliable. I trust it to do it, and so it outsourced that to technology. AI gives the appearance of being true, and will trick our brains into thinking, "Oh, it's done that for me," and so I don't have to know how to do it.
Kind of like knowing how to perform math yourself,
Mhm.
or you calculate it.
Right. So you do enough math the old-fashioned way to understand what's going on, and then use the reliable, proven tool to do all of the stuff so that you don't have to do it the slow way. AI will be accelerator if you know how to do it the old-fashioned way, and that you have a reliable path to get where you want to go. So some things AI does really well reliably, or the output is easy enough to judge the quality of. It doesn't matter if it's sometimes unreliable, because I can glance at it and say, oh, that's wrong, I'll redo it. For students that are learning things, this is a mirage that looks like an oasis in a desert of work that
Oh,
they
they
need to
don't
finish.
listen.
Getting right for the calculator.
So they turn in something they think looks really good. I'm like, this is not responsive. We didn't talk about that concept. You forgot to remove the prompt where it said, is there anything else you want to know about? Like, you didn't even read the thing that you turned in. So even if it's a great essay and perfectly like responsive to my prompt, if the student didn't read it, they didn't learn it. Other than how to copy and paste my professor's question into this chat box and copy and paste the answer into a document and turn it in.
My favorite site, so I check, putting a flag it, we're not plagiarism by the time.
Yes, and there's ones that check for AI generation and they're crap and not reliable. And I believe that the most important thing between the professor and the student is the trust that we give each other, because they're trusting me to do work, spending their valuable time with the promise that they'll have something valuable at the end of it, some piece of knowledge or capability. And I'm trusting them to actually have done that work when they hand it in. So if I'm going to accuse them of breaking that trust, essentially severing our most important relationship, I need really high level of evidence, and I cannot get that from any one of those tools. So I don't go that route. I'm just trying to change all my assignments to make them AI friendly in the right places so that the brain is still learning the hard part and offloading the stuff that they actually already know or don't need to know. Yes, sir, Dave.
Well, a question and a couple of comments. The question is, so, you mentioned a class.
Uh-huh.
And I'm quite sure I'm the senior member of this gathering. And, I tell people I'm a genius as long as my daughter's with me. And that's really true.
Mhm.
So you mentioned a class. Is that available to people who aren't more than average computer savvy?
There's so much out there. You can do a bunch of free stuff. I'll let you Google that on your own. I'm going to do Boise State Pace AI. That professor I told you about, Kevin Rank, that teaches our upper division AI class to business students, also teaches in the professional and continuing education program for community members at Boise State. And let's see if this is. Yeah, so they're currently charging $300 for it. There's a lot of free stuff online. Oh, Jen Schneider's amazing. She's the dean of our College of Innovation and Design. Okay, so this isn't Kevin's class. Apparently, we're doing a lot more AI courses. Yeah. Go to boisestate.edu PACE courses if you want to get in the weeds and actually learn something tangible and hands-on. If you just want to play around with it, search Google. Or here's one of my favorite use cases for Gemini. They have, let's do a new chat, a feature called Deep Research. So this down here, I could analyze a video or create something. Deep Research, if I turn it on, will essentially go out and write a book report for me on any subject I want. And let's say design a curriculum for a well-seasoned real estate investor to learn about. Yeah. And then you could give it more things you want. I asked it to write a report for me on semiconductors. And I got to learn about P gates and N gates and all these things that Vicar inscribes on silicon for us so that our computers that I like to play with and use will actually work. So this will take a while because Deep Researcher does a lot of sourcing and double checking, and then it shows you its thoughts as it goes along. So it said, okay, before I spend all that time and computational power, do you want me to do this? I'm thinking of researching websites to define the core concepts of AI, research and analyze the primary applications, predictive analytics. At Kobe, we call this using AI to learn anything, and our YouTube channel is going to have some videos start posting in August about this. I'm the third video, the one telling you why this is all probably a terrible idea and you should come to college anyways. The first two will give you some practicals. So follow our Boise State College of Business YouTube channel if you want to hear what we're saying about it.
So another comment you had is, I thought that one should really read the product that comes out. Make sure you understand it and it produces what you want. Right?
Yes, you should read the product that comes out, if anything relies on it whatsoever. Kind of a funny story, kind of a like, really, kid? In one of my senior level classes, like going to graduate students, I had somebody as part of a team project, all the team members took a personality inventory, the 16 personalities based on the Myers-Briggs test. And so they all put in their personalities. And I said, write a short write-up about it and talk about it as a team, and then tell me what you learned about each other and how you want to change working together based on these results. Well, they had the conversation. It was in class. I observed it. They had the results. They've done that part of the work. But apparently writing it up was just too much for them. So they farmed it out to AI. And how did I know that they farmed it out and didn't spend any time on it? Because one of the paragraphs had the person's name and described the personality trait really well, but the person's name could be either a boy's name or a girl's name. This student was a boy. The write-up was all she, her, and like all female. I'm like, I'm sorry, have I been using the wrong pronoun for you all semester long? And his face just changed. He's like, yeah, we probably should have read that before we turned it in, shouldn't we? Like, yes, you should have.
Another. Yeah. Lawyer. Right up, sent into a judge.
Yes.
And the AI cited a bunch of cases that didn't exist.
Yep.
He got in a lot of trouble for that.
Yeah. Which is why I want you to stay away from using it for math that's of consequence or outputs that cannot be easily judged. Something that could be easily judged, an image.
There's another Supreme Court story. Jackie and I have a friend whose daughter was invested in the Idaho Supreme Court, and so she invited us to come to the investiture. And one of the judges who was going to be a speaker said that she thought she'd try to chat GPT to make her speech. And she told her that she was going to be making a speech at the swearing in of the Supreme Court justice. And ChatGPT came back and said, we don't recommend swearing at Supreme Court justice.
That's a touch of wisdom for you. I used it a couple of weeks ago to give me a bunch of jokes I can write in a 9-year-old's birthday card that have to do with puppies, kittens, and rabbits. And it came up with a couple dozen, and I picked my favorite 5 or 6 and wrote them in just to liven things up a bit. It's if you can judge the output, you can use it easily. And I say go for it to make life a little better. ChatGPT, I asked it to create a description of that fake property listing for the commercial, not the apartment building I showed you, but I asked it to do a commercial listing. It came up with this beautiful unit description. It's got zoning types, lease type. And then I said, okay, now go and create a picture, photorealistic picture of this property for me. And I got, let's see, back on my website, this picture right here. You start to look at it, it's like, that's a little too pristine. Like, I don't think I've seen sidewalks quite that clean in a while. And maybe that available sign should probably be on the glass, not running into the edge, but it looks decent. And then, so there's the prompt I used to create that. And then I said, now please create a description of the premises to be leased using this photo and your dry actuarial-like imagination. The address is this. And I showed these out of order. This is the description it came up with. It generated all of that just based on that photo, which it had just made up 5 seconds before. If you give it real photos, you have a good chance of actually getting a decent description of something that you're working on. because it's really good at changing one format, photos, into another, text, or vice versa. That was done in the paid version of ChatGPT, yes. And then I was gonna say, hey, let's do our most tedious task or use our imagination. Roy, what was our idea from earlier?
Creation of the podcast, right?
Oh, yeah.
Getting the text form from the podcast and then bringing that back over to,
11 Labs.
11 Labs.
Yeah.
What we might do here is, maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we should do a quick round robin, because we've seen some of it going. But maybe we should hear what everyone's inspired to think of how they might use this right now.
Yeah,
And
you
then
go
call
for it.
You know, we don't, I mean, these have been great demonstrations, but I wonder how, my burning question is, what are you inspired to try it on? Do you know yet?
Integrating data from the property management to put together a task.
Integrating data for a tax return. I was thinking similarly, taking the statements and asking it to find the anomalies. Read my management statements for me and point out the things that are not standard utilities that deviate from the norm, so that I can just find out if there's any new repairs and what those are, and then go to the bank statement and find that repair and who did it, whatever I need out of that. Janice, what about you? Any thoughts? Pass? John?
I use a lot for all kinds of stuff. The other day I had to generate a spreadsheet to graphs. But my biggest challenge has been to apply to real estate.
Okay. Dave, new ideas?
Sorry, what was?
Any new ideas on using ChatGPT in real estate from this that you're thinking of? Yet?
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, you're gonna take the Boise City Council notes, is what you're gonna do.
Pardon me?
You will do the Boise City Council notes and have it read those for you. We had yours, maybe.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the lengthy documents from Boise City.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was your first question, was the example, how to extract the important parts. Anyone else? Should we go all the way around? No?
And MLS, and with all the historical sales data, have to do the CMAs, right, potentials or efforts.
Okay.
I'll say I use ChatGPT a lot in here. They give me like quick definitions of things because I'm still learning, or like, we're going over the Delaware's
Statutory trusts.
Yeah, so I asked for just a general quick summary of that as well. They can't give me all the finite legal information about everything that's mentioned, but they gave me a summary so I could kind of like catch up a little bit.
Great, yeah. Okay.
I mean, off the top of my head, one thing you could do is you could take neighborhood sales data for all the home prices, out of the chat, organize all that. Look at current prices to either identify deals or price things more accurately. Also,
Okay, well, let's go around. Alex, thank you, Ray.
Two things I can think of. One is that all of us get email overload, but some of them are newsletters that I put into a read later module.
Yeah.
That I never get to. So putting all of those in there, they give me a summary. For the
Yeah.
last month, 7 newsletters. That's one, and then the second one is for our software product, we customer support, we get customer support. So, putting those in.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, they're all,
And tier one customer support is one of the largest areas of labor that's currently being impacted because you're replacing your entire first contact with an AI interaction. And it's more accurate, faster, available all the time, and costs way less.
frustrating,
Sometimes.
but yeah, it's better than other alternatives besides what you.
Thank you, Alex. Dave?
I wrote down one, it's the same question I asked you. It's, yeah, it might be interesting in cap rates of duplex sales. In Boise, the past 10 years.
Duplex cap rates? Thank you.
I just want my data, to see public rents in areas where don't have price and then.
Rent comparisons. And Zillow does a lot of that too. Chad?
One's more on the fraud side, how to check applications for fraud is becoming bigger and bigger.
A couple times, and maybe there's better sources that I could use to filter the map specifically, but I recently met with my lender and I asked her like, how, like, what do I need to purchase this land for, you know, building costs, do they need the numbers work out for like this property that I'm looking at building, and I actually last night just randomly was like, I went into a chat GPT would tell me. And what it told me was actually, I put a lot of data in there, like projected, like, taxes and mortgage insurance and all of that, and, you know, what I paid for the land, how many units, and it was able to spit out like a whole, you know, basically, you know, like what the mortgage rate, like the whole PMI, you know, what you'd have to rent it for to be able to, you know, earn X amount of cash flow. It really kind of broke it down. So I've been using it to analyze yields, and yeah. I like it with the brain, so I think the more I input, the more accurate it'll be. But it's been really good just to get a general idea, because I ask a lot of questions, and so my lender is probably like, leave me alone. So.
Yeah.
Which is something ChatGPT will never say. It'll try to answer the question. And it's also the best way to check its output. It's like, oh, where did you get that answer or insight from? Or can you explain this math to me, or the calculation that came up with that? That'll allow you to check it for things that are consequential math that you can spend the time evaluating the output.
I just did a really messy deal with divorce and lawyers and all that nonsense. So I was like, okay, can you take what this lawyer said and simplify it so that I can simplify it if it's to the client? But also I get really wordy with our newsletters, and Stacy tells me all the time, it's short, it's but short. And that's a lot too.
Change my drill sergeant email into a much more friendly neighbor.
Yeah. Leslie?
So when we are preparing to either list a property or have a potential purchase, we like to look up the permit history. And I would like to use AI to help with that, either to summarize the permits that were good or I don't go in and open every single one.
Notebook LM would be really good for that.
Dave, you're gonna wrap it. So
Okay.
you wanna do something.
Yeah, sure. I think there was one, at least one person that had something in the chat. Analyze property management reports, tax info, and market data to determine when would be a good time to sell. And then analyze property management data to ascertain which area, repair, maintenance, rent rate, expenses, is causing a property loser. Sounds like there's an inside joke here. All right, I'm gonna add these in there. And these are all in Google Docs, so I'll share it back with you so you can have it afterwards. And then how do you like to do the wrap?
All right, guys. Let's do this. Hang out with me, Dan.
Hey.
We gotta stand uncomfortably close. I don't know how the heck I'm gonna summarize this meeting because I am so far beyond, but Dan Rush, Boise State University, AVID Investors Club, thank you all for being here, and Dan for presenting tonight. Some of the top takeaways I got from your presentation, interrupt me as you see fit. Number one, Google Notebook LM. At the start of this meeting, Dan said, if you remember one thing, Google Notebook LM is the thing. And he showed us that you can search multiple or very large documents, and you can make things happen with those. You can summarize them. You can use it as a, And then number two was Google Gemini for a data visualization tool. The reason, back to number one, why we liked Google Notebook LM is because you can not only, it'll scan the PDFs for you, but it will provide sources. So knowing where your data comes from. And it doesn't necessarily become part of Google's learning model, but it may. Important note, Dan said, I firmly believe only people have intelligence. So this is helping assimilate data for us. Specifically, it's generating it, it's generating pre-trained data, and it's transforming it. ChatGPT, generative pre-trained transformer. AI is truthy, says Dan, but it's not yet trusty or trustworthy, perhaps is the word. So double check it. Don't expect consistent results each time you use it. And if you're using it for work, use the best industry-specific tool. And feel free to compare that with the paid version. Or you could use it to create the tool that you want to use. But either way, if our brain thinks that AI is doing the job for us, it's not going to retain it. We're not going to learn it. It's going to forget it, much in the way you don't know your spouse's or your bestie's phone number, but you know your bestie's childhood phone number. But I think the most important thing we learned about ChatGPT today is about AI today is that there are so many more ways to use it, and that we're all just scratching the surface. Even those who are specializing in it are continuing to scratch the surface, dig to the very bottom, and a week later, the well gets even deeper. So however you're using it, just don't forget to read the output.
That's a good.
That's what I got.
Well, thank you. I think you did an excellent job.